So we did something pretty out there today. Pretty crazy, maybe some people might think. We have been in El Salvador for about 2.5, almost 3 weeks. And we decided we're going to move here and make this place our home. And part of that was to actually start a business. So today we went to escape to El Salvador at the Bitcoin Embassy, and we signed papers. And the papers were to start our new business called Las Tres Gracias, or the Three Graces, which are, of course, faith, hope, and charity.
Wonder where that name come from.
So, how did this all begin?
Well, it began a while ago. Actually, we're looking in Canada to see if there was any opportunity there to move around different places, and this came up. We had been looking at different countries before, sort of make a list of the pros and cons and whatnot, and all of a sudden El Salvador came up on the radar. Because there are lots of things happening here, have happened in the last year and a bit. It had been quite an unsafe country in years past, and all of a sudden that's no longer the case. We've been out a couple of times at night, and absolutely no sign of any criminal activity or any pickpockets or anything else happening. Gang activity seems to be completely gone.
Yeah.
It appears to be completely gone. You see a lot of people out. We talk to folks here, and they all say the same thing. Nobody would dare to go out at night. And now you see people, you see families, you see kids out.
Yeah.
People are selling toys and all kinds of stuff. Late at night when it's dark. Restaurants are open. There's lots of activity, and it feels like it's family safe, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
alive.
It's interesting to see some of the articles that are written by some of the mainstream media. There was one from the LA Times trying to turn this into a bad thing, and I'm thinking I wouldn't dare to walk around LA at night for any reason.
No, definitely not.
So it's all about perspective.
And we were out, a few nights, and one was a while ago, out at a lookout, and there were tons of kids out there at that lookout. We had to elbow our way to the railing to get a couple of good shots. Yeah. And yeah, it was just booming with activity, and this was dark, and probably it was around 8 or 9, and we'd had some dinner, we had dessert. We didn't have dinner. We'd had dessert that time with some iced coffee, my favorite, of course. And yeah, we were at a restaurant that was actually on the side of a hill, which was cool. We got to take a few shots there. But there was a big public lookout area. It was teeming of people. There was all these street vendors. We bought some stuff.
And it was, and the view was absolutely astonishing.
It was beautiful. All of San Salvador and around area.
This is where you take those pictures and put them in the video. Right?
Is that where I put them in the video?
That's where you put them in the video. So yeah, we got a good feeling about this, a good feeling about the country, and we had been looking. I'm also thinking about the kids, our kids, to start with, and what their future should look like, and what it can be. And what we see here is it seems to be family oriented. There's lots of kids around. The statistics, demographics, said about 30% of the population is under 18. So that's huge.
I'd like to know what the Canadian statistics are, because it seems, unless you're like in a really urbanized area, there's just a lot less kids. People are just not having kids, right?
Yeah.
I can probably name 10 friends and coworkers that never had kids.
But even from our church, the folks who had large families, they all moved away.
Yes,
lots of them went to Alberta.
United States
and the U.S. So so things so those all weigh into consideration. Another thing we did was we went to we considered, if we were here, that there's probably going to be kids that need another family, so adoption, or even just taking care of kids was always on our radar.
Yeah.
And when we talked to Jeremy about that, he said, "Why don't you start the organization yourself? Why don't you start an orphanage?" Which was not something we'd considered before.
No, we were thinking Airbnb or motel, restaurant, even like a co-worker space. I thought maybe like a cafe because, I really like my iced coffee. So, let's just start making it.
Yes.
And coffee is obviously something El Salvador is known for. So I had all these ideas, but also our kids, we did talk to them before about maybe when we get here, we can adopt again. And they all seem to want their own younger sibling to play with. So like, okay, we'll adopt 1 or 3. I don't know, maybe more. So when we brought that up to Jeremy, he said, "Well, why don't you start your own orphanage?" And it's like, wow,
and even
I hadn't considered that.
Even adoption is not really necessary. I mean, if kids need a safe place to stay, then it's something that we could easily provide. We've been foster parents for long enough, and hosting international students. So you don't necessarily need the legal paperwork to take care of kids.
Well, that's it. We've had students in our home before we had children of our own. And then we fostered several children, including one of our children that we adopted. So we always thought about extending our family this way. And I myself hadn't had all the legal paperwork when I was growing up as the official adopted child in the family.
Like we're in the jungle.
And we'd even tried to adopt a sibling group before, and they weren't necessarily keen on adopting, but we said, hey, we could foster them for their rest of their lives. We could be that forever home. The parents who call and say, "Oh my gosh, I just got a new job," or I got a raise, or "Oh my fiance just proposed to me, and we're gonna have our wedding in June." And you want to be that for children. You don't want to see children go through life having no one to go home to.
No roots,
no summer vacation home, no Christmas, no any major holiday or whatever. So we wanted to be that home for some children.
Yeah.
We wanted
so
to
that was always a consideration. It wasn't the first consideration, but it was definitely there.
Yeah, definitely.
So we seem to be shifting a little bit towards that being the major thing we're doing. We still have to make sure that we figure out a way to finance that. But I have a feeling that that's just going to happen.
Yeah.
There's plenty of opportunity here.
Yeah.
There really is.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see as well that when you're driving around in the large cities, if I compare it to Ottawa and Toronto and anything else in Canada, you see panhandling, right, on the side of the street and on the street, and when you're walking around, always people coming up to you on trying to get money out of you. They do that here too, but not by that. They try to sell you stuff. So they have, they go into a store and they have a cooler and they bring water bottles out and they make sure they have ice there. So they sell you cold water, and they sell toys at the side of the street, and they sell things for that you can use in the car for what are those back things?
Yeah, back support things.
Kind
of keep your back cool in the heat of the car.
Whatever you
or
think.
The visors to keep the sun out of the windshield.
And clothing and anything you can think of. That's relatively cheap to get, and is also easy to sell with a bit of markup.
Yeah.
Everybody hustles. It really is the case. We had a wonderful guide here that we spent time with. Unfortunately, he got a job about halfway through, but good for him. We got to know him, and we got to know his girlfriend, and we said, one of the things I'd like to see, I'd like to have a map so I can see what kind of altitude, because altitude is kind of very important here, specifically if you're coming from Canada.
Yes.
Used to cold weather and cold temperatures and not the hot ones. Because the altitude makes a big difference. We're now at about a kilometer height from sea level, and it's this is perfect. So we could go from here and up, and that would be fine. I don't want to go much lower because that probably won't work.
The beach is very, very hot. If you're not used to really extreme heat, I suggest don't go there to live. Anyway.
Yeah, we talked to some other folks as well who came there, expats, and they moved pretty close to the beach, and they lived there for a couple of months. And it's too hot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we mentioned the map thing, and she went after it and found a source for maps, and now she's selling them.
Yeah.
And that's really the attitude of people here, right? There's someone's looking for something. Okay, I can provide. Sell it for a profit.
Yeah,
excellent. Go for it.
Yeah,
And I said, if you're doing maps, look at flags as well, and people will buy it.
Yeah.
So good attitude of people here. They seem to be pleased with the way things are going too, which is nice.
Yeah, happy at the changes that were made.
Yeah. I mean, is it all roses and unicorns? Probably not. But it's going to take some time to settle down. But it's going the right direction. It couldn't keep going the way it was before, because that was just destructive to society. But there is still a gap because, like I said, the gang members are now gone, so the father figures and brothers and everything else, that leaves a huge gap. So what is happening next? And we see what happens if we look at the U.S., for instance, where a lot of young men are incarcerated. There is no father figure. There is no guidance there. There is no discipline that is enforced in the traditional family unit. So it leaves a gap, and that causes other problems. And the quicker you try to address that, the better it is. So hopefully we can offer some of that.
Yeah. To be the maternal and paternal figures.
Yeah.
For some children, to give them hope in a future. One thing about when we visited the orphanage, the thing that kind of, I don't know, maybe surprised me, or shocked me maybe would be the better word. When I asked how many kids of this orphanage had been adopted, I was thinking this orphanage has been around for a while, I guess. I was thinking
at least 2 decades.
Yeah, so I was thinking some. The answer was none. And that really kind of hit me, because the person who gave us the tour, he actually was an orphan in an orphanage since he was 5. And now he is 25. So at 18, he moved out, worked for a little bit, came back. He got a scholarship to get a teaching degree or diploma, I think was the first part of it. Now he's going to get his bachelor's degree. He's got another year left to go. But he's working at the orphanage, and that's really his only home, the only thing he ever knew. I mean, great success story for him that he got his education, he's got a job, he's going to make it.
Yeah, but he's a good example.
He's a good example, but at the same time, it also means that's the only life he knows. He doesn't have that family, like I said. Mom, I just asked my girlfriend to marry me. Like, who's he going to call? Or who's going to be at the wedding? It's just going to be people at the orphanage staff, other orphans at the orphanage. Like, he's not going to have those permanent roots. These kids will grow up by the orphanage. They will leave. They may or may not stay in touch. The staff members, they work and then they retire, and they may not have those permanent roots. So I hope we can make a difference here with whatever we could set up for the children. Even if we're just working with an orphanage at the beginning, helping provide some of those things, like I said, some English classes, some computer science classes, maybe doing some sort of apprenticeship program, or showing them woodworking. There's a lot of people that build furniture here. Yeah. You drive down the street, you can see lots of people with like benches and beds and dressers and all this stuff on the side of the road that obviously somebody's built, handmade. So, we could teach skills and people can get a future here. So even if they're raised as an orphan in the orphanage, they can still find something prosperous out of that and give them hope in a future.
Yeah. And it's not just orphans who end up in the orphanage. There's, we got the numbers now.
70% of the children in the orphanage are brought there through violence, whether it's physical, sexual, emotional violence in the home. 20% are through neglect, and 10% are girls who have been raped and potentially with a child that now needs to be helped to be raised in the orphanage. In the past, the gangs had harassed some of the girls that were in the orphanage. The one that we visited in Santa Tecla had moved from the countryside to the city. And they're hoping to move back in August, actually. So their facility's getting renovated. Now the gangs are gone. Things are much safer. So, we are starting with working with that orphanage as much as we can. We're actually sending some books there from the States, a good book series from the Tuttle twins that we really like. And we'll start there when we get here. Hopefully our business, everything goes through in about 3 months, I guess. And then we should be tagging along shortly after that. And then we can start. We got to get some land. We got to get some facilities up and running. And then do whatever we can at the beginning, little by little, until we have our fully functioning facility. And how that ends up, I don't know exactly, but we're here to help the kids and, of course, help our own kids through all that, teaching them also to be good people and to kind of pay it forward, that we help others so that, that we learn compassion and learn to listen to God. I think it's a big part that we're learning right now. Yeah. Listen to what God's plan is for us and for them. And that they can pay that forward and help others as they grow up and become good people. We're hoping.
Yeah, exactly.